There are hitters who wait for their pitch. There are hitters who battle, foul off fastballs, grind through 7-pitch at-bats, work the count until the pitcher makes a mistake. And then there is Shohei Ohtani, who doesn't wait for anything. Top of the first inning. No outs. Nobody on base. First pitch of the game. He swings. And the ball disappears. Before the Cardinals' dugout had finished exhaling from their pre-inning warm-ups, the scoreboard had already changed. Before the crowd at Dodger Stadium had fully settled into their seats, Ohtani was rounding first base with that slow, deliberate trot, the one that doesn't celebrate, doesn't perform, doesn't ask anyone to watch. The one that simply says, "I came here to do this, and now I've done it." The question everyone is asking today is simple on the surface: how does a hitter destroy a first pitch? But the real question, the one that actually matters, is what kind of preparation, what kind of mind, what kind of daily existence produces a man who is already fully locked in before the game has even started. Dodgers vs. Cardinals. DH Shohei Ohtani. Top of the first inning, no outs, no runners on base. The stadium hadn't yet found its rhythm. The game was, by every conventional measure, brand new. There were 26 outs remaining for the Cardinals to work with. The pitcher on the mound had the entire game ahead of him. Every advantage, theoretically, belonged to the defense in that moment. And then the first pitch came. And Ohtani, already decided, already committed, already somewhere else entirely in his mind, launched it into the seats. Statistically, first-pitch home runs are rare. Not because pitchers avoid throwing strikes early in the count, they don't, but because most hitters, even excellent ones, are still calibrating in the first inning. They want to see how the ball is moving. They want to gauge the pitcher's release point, confirm their reads from the scouting report, settle their own timing before committing fully. First-pitch aggression at the major league level carries real risk. Ohtani does not appear to be calibrating. He appears to arrive at the plate already calibrated. What makes that first-pitch swing so stunning is not the physical act itself. Elite hitters swing at first pitches. That happens. What makes it different when Ohtani does it is the certainty in the motion. There is no tentative quality to it. No weight held back in case of doubt. It is a swing made by someone who already knew, before the ball left the pitcher's hand, exactly what he was going to do. That kind of certainty does not come from talent alone. Talent gives you the physical tools to execute. Certainty comes from somewhere else. It comes from the hours before the game, the days before the series, the weeks of accumulated data broken down into something so personal and so specific that by the time a hitter steps into the box, the pitcher's tendencies feel less like information and more like memory. Those close to the Dodgers organization have consistently described Ohtani's pre-game preparation as methodical in a way that goes beyond the standard major league routine. He doesn't arrive at the ballpark and begin working. He arrives having already worked, having already processed the pitcher, the counts, the tendencies, the sequences. The cage session, the early batting practice, the film review, these are not where he discovers what the pitcher does. They are where he confirms and sharpens what he already knows. By the time he is standing in the on-deck circle in the first inning, the game has already been played somewhere in his mind. The first pitch is not a surprise to him. In a very specific sense, it is almost a formality. Every pitching staff in baseball has a book on Ohtani. That is not in question. The Cardinals, like every other team in the National League, have spent real time and real resources studying his tendencies, his weaknesses, or what once looked like weaknesses, his pitch recognition patterns, how he handles velocity up in the zone, how he adjusts to movement away, what counts make him aggressive. The problem is not the quality of the information. The problem is that Ohtani studies them with at least the same intensity that they study him. Possibly more. And he adjusts faster. There is something uniquely difficult about facing a hitter who has genuinely internalized your scouting report, not as a checklist to be read before a game, but as a felt understanding of what you are likely to do and why. The Cardinals pitcher on the mound in the first inning made a decision about what to throw Ohtani on pitch 1. It was almost certainly a reasonable decision, informed by legitimate data. And Ohtani was already waiting for it. That is not luck. That is the product of someone who has committed, over years, to understanding his opponents not just analytically but intuitively, the way a chess player doesn't just know the theory of an opening but feels, in their body, how it tends to unfold. Preparation at that level doesn't make you right every time. But it makes you ready in a way that ordinary preparation cannot match. There is a version of this story that focuses on the swing. The launch angle, the exit velocity, the distance. Those numbers are impressive. They are also, in a meaningful sense, beside the point, because the swing is the last 5% of what produced this home run. The first 95% happened somewhere else, at some other time, when no cameras were rolling and no crowd was watching. Ohtani's daily structure in Los Angeles has been described by those around the team as remarkably consistent regardless of schedule, travel, or the results of recent games. He does not have a good day and relax his routine. He does not have a bad game and abandon his preparation. The routine is not a response to circumstances. It is prior to circumstances. It exists whether the circumstances warrant it or not. That kind of consistency is rarer than people realize, even at the highest level of professional sports. Most players, even elite ones, allow their preparation to fluctuate with their confidence. A hot stretch invites comfort. A cold stretch invites anxiety and doubt. Both states disrupt the routine in ways that compound over time. Ohtani, by nearly every account, does not fluctuate. His preparation on the day of a first-pitch home run looks essentially the same as his preparation on the day of an 0 for 4. The outcome does not determine the process. The process simply continues. This is, in its own way, the most extraordinary thing about him, not the physical ability, which is generational, but the psychological architecture underneath it. A structure that does not bend to results, that does not inflate with praise or deflate with failure, that simply keeps producing the same inputs and trusting the process to produce the outputs over time. A first-pitch leadoff homer in the top of the first inning is not just a run. It is a statement of tempo. It tells the opposing team, the opposing pitcher, and the opposing dugout that today is going to be played at Ohtani's pace, not theirs. It changes the emotional mathematics of the game before either team has recorded a single out. Cardinals pitchers now face the rest of the game knowing that Ohtani proved, in the first at-bat of the day, that he had done his homework and they had not done theirs well enough. That knowledge sits in a pitcher's mind. It affects the way he approaches the next confrontation. Does he go to his go-to pitch, knowing Ohtani is ready for it? Does he change the plan entirely, hoping unpredictability compensates for preparation? Both options carry cost. Both options reflect the uncomfortable reality that Ohtani's at-bat is over before it begins in any game where he has truly prepared. For the Dodgers, his teammates and his lineup, the effect runs in the opposite direction. When the best player in the game opens the scoring before the first out is recorded, not with a walk, not with a single, not with a broken bat ground ball that finds a gap, but with a massive shot to the seats on the first pitch he sees, it recalibrates every expectation in the dugout. It makes the game feel, immediately, like it is being played on Dodger terms. That is the value of Ohtani that does not appear in any batting line. Not the home run, but the signal it sends. Not the run, but the shift in the room it creates. Every time Ohtani steps into the box, there is a version of this moment available. The first pitch homer against the Cardinals is dramatic because of its timing and its immediacy, but it is not exceptional in the larger sense. It is what happens when preparation at his level meets a pitch that matches his read. It will happen again. The question is not whether Ohtani will continue to perform at this level. The question, the more interesting one, is whether anyone around him, his teammates, the next generation of hitters coming up through the minor leagues, the coaches who study the Dodgers from the outside, is watching closely enough to understand what is actually being demonstrated. The home run is easy to see. The exit velocity number is easy to cite. What is harder to see, and harder to replicate, is what happened in the hours before the first pitch, the preparation that made the swing inevitable. Ohtani did not decide to swing on that first pitch in real time. He decided long before the game started. That, more than the power, more than the bat speed, more than any physical tool, is the thing that should make every pitcher in baseball genuinely uneasy.